Hi guys! Woof! It's gone a bit chilly. The sun went round that side of the house and now it's really cold in here. It was lovely and warm earlier. Woof! Hi Mandy! Hi Jen! Mika! Jane! Oof. Miss Maddie! I've got two jumpers on. Two jumpers, that's how cold it is. It's my painting jumper, hence the holes. Oh, I hope you're all well. Chilly, yes. It's gone chilly, Luna. It was nice and warm earlier, and now it's... Ugh. Oh. Repping my Ravenclaws. Right then, today we are... Hey Cheryl, long time no see. Today we're going to be doing some Witchy Wednesday stuff. So let me just make sure my camera's in position. There is heat, but I turned it on to... Oh, I've left my coffee outside. I turned it on to summer because it's been really warm the last few days and now it's gone cold again. And now I can't get the heating to come back on because it's decided, no, it's summer. You said you want me off, so I'm not coming back on again. So at the moment it's a bit chilly. But I have put it on, but it's on a timer. Let me go grab my coffee. I've left it outside somehow. I don't know how I managed that. Did you distract Mummy? Was that you, Miss Naddie? Did you distract Mummy? You did. Cheeky minx. Left it by the dog for food because I noticed Miss Maddie's bowl was empty. Whoops. Oh, right then. You had to have some pizza to warm you up, yeah. The wind's picked up again. And it feels like it's changed direction. It was nice and warm earlier from the south. And I think it's swung round. So, for anyone who wasn't on Twitch earlier, this is where we're up to with the panda. He's not far off done. I need to do a little bit more. You can see his fur here is still a little bit rough. I need to do a bit more with that. But he's not far off finished, this one, I think. He's actually closer than I thought he was. I need to do his nose, obviously. I haven't done anything with his nose yet. But, yeah, he's not far off finished. I didn't work on the other one this morning. I've started the background on this one, which is going to be a hare. Panda is already spoken for, by the way. He's been reserved, along with his companion piece, Yin Yang. But Panda now has a wait list of 6 people. So if you've spoken to me and I've said I will wait list you, you're on the list in order of appearance. But he is reserved for somebody. This is going to be a hare with the moon. I've got to do some more on this. It's just a first go over. You can still see the canvas and everything. It's just getting the colours in roughly where I wanted it. So there's that. You've still got snow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, dear Polar Vortex, it's nearly April. For those who haven't seen it yet, if you are a member of my website, go to the website, Hyena, check in, and go to Studio Shop. The shop has had a complete revamp. Members, it's free to join, so if you're a subscriber, you're welcome to come and join. Members can pre-order stuff that's not actually finished yet, like the cat journals and Panda's on there with his wait list and all that kind of stuff. Anything I'm already working on that is sufficiently far enough that I'm like, yeah, I just need to finish this and then it can go on sale. It's up for pre-sale. Obviously, hair isn't anywhere near, it's only just started yesterday, so that's not up yet. But as it goes along, follow me on Instagram and you'll see where it gets up to. And, you know, at that point, if you're a member, as soon as it goes up, you can say, I'd like that one, please, when you're finished. And at that point, while it's still unfinished, you get a little bit of leeway in saying if there's something that you'd particularly like included or excluded or whatever. Obviously, you can't change the painting, but if there's something that you want to say, well, could you just add something here, or could you just, you know, change this just a little bit, add a bit more green in here or a bit more blue in there, you know, because you want it to match your living room or something, then that's fine. I can accommodate that, and I will let you know. But if you want to have first refusal, you need to be a member. General sale, if you're not a member, you can still go over and visit the shop, but only the stuff that is completed and ready to ship will be up there. I am looking at merch, and that will be available soon, but again, pre-orders will only be available to members. I have to know who you people are. I can't just pre-order stuff willy-nilly and then not know who you are or how to get hold of you. Hey, Chloe. Members only, yes, there are tarot and chart readings. Please bear in mind that I am an intuitive reader. I don't necessarily do tarot and astrological chart readings exactly like other people might do them or in exactly the way you expect. So if you're not familiar with the way I do my readings, then you need to talk to me first before you book one. But yeah, you can book readings, you can book private tuition sessions if you'd like to chat to me about something. As a for instance, it's Witchy Wednesday, if you perhaps want to go through your Book of Shadows with me and you know, have some suggestions about what you could do to add to it or change it or make it more the way you want it to be. I'm happy to do that stuff like that. Go over this on the website and check it out. What else? Merch. I said about merch, didn't I? Merch will be coming soon, hopefully in summer. I've got a few things I need to sort out first on the technical side of it before I can do merch. But, you know, general merch, like, well, whatever people want, you know, if you specifically want a t-shirt with a panda on it, then, you know, I'm sure I can manage to do that. But I do know that with the particular site that I'm looking at, I have to order 10 of each thing. So I'm perfectly happy to pre-order 5 and have the other 5 go on general sale in my shop. What else? I'm trying to figure out something for Patreon. Somebody said something the other day that mugs and coffee travel mugs, yes, they will be, if they're available on the merch site, they will be one of the first things that go. Because mugs are universal. I also plan to do some other designs, some more spirit animals and all that kind of stuff, so stay tuned. And if you want to see what I'm planning for paintings and things, the best place to catch me is over on Twitch. There. At Romany. Twitch.tv/Romany. Wednesdays and Friday mornings. Anything else? Class, patrons, still ongoing. My Patreon is up and running. It is currently the 27th. If you signed up, for instance, today, you would pay for today for March, and then you'll be charged again on the 1st. So I usually say to people after the 27th, unless you've got money to spare and you're quite happy to spend the extra money for the extra months, you know, to have the extra month of tuition, that's perfectly fine with me, thank you. Then by all means sign up whenever you like. But if you are on a budget, then I usually say wait until the 1st. So from Monday, if you want to sign up for April, you can do so. Or you can sign up over on my Ning site. You can sign up whenever you like. So if you're one of those odd people who gets paid on a stupid day, like me, who decided paying people on the 6th was a good idea. I mean, come on. Yeah, if you get paid on a stupid day, or if you get paid bi-monthly or something like that, then you can sign up direct on the Ning site and pay whatever date of the month that you want to. Patreon is restricted to the 1st. I am also looking at various ways of giving patrons perks. What I would like to do eventually, let me know if you think it's a good idea, is to put demonetized versions of my streams and stuff over on Patreon. So if you're a patron, you can get a demonetized stream version. Now, I don't know how that works with live streams. That's one of the things I need to look into. I know it works with videos. Even if I put a monetized video up, you can demonetize it over on Patreon. But I don't know how it works with live. I think if you watch live on Patreon, you can't see chat, which is a bit of a downside for a lot of people. So I don't know. We'll have to see with that one. Let me know what you think, or you know, if you've discovered yourself how you can do it and it works, or if you've got suggestions, or if you know other creators who do things that they've found work, by all means, you know, pass along their names so I can go check them out, and also see how they're working it so that it gives you a perk on Patreon. Because honestly, I'd rather people paid $1 a month over on Patreon and got no ads than had to sit through ads over here. Especially with the new YouTube ads. I clicked through the same skippable ad on the same video 4 times the other day. I was getting so annoyed with it. And then you've got the whole, oh no, are you still awake? You've watched 3 videos in a row. Are you still here? I'm like, yes, I'm still here. Shut up. Anyway, let's get on. Witchy Wednesday. This is officially the first one. It should have been last week, but things ensued, and were overcome, as Jack Sparrow would say. I had a question. I had a couple of questions, actually, that I didn't write down the name for the other one. I only wrote down the initial as D. I must have known what that meant at the time. Wanted to know, how do you know what to put in your Book of Shadows? It's a bit of a general question. I feel like there's an awful lot of blog posts out there on Google that you could look up that would probably tell you better than I can. But Stacey Owen also mentioned, asked, you mentioned leaving out stuff that you already know in your Book of Shadows. What if you're very new? Do you have one for looking up and one for experiences, etc.? Interesting question. And I thought, since we were deaf, Luna, are you all right there? I thought since we were reinstalling Witchy Wednesday, I would work in my book. If you want to see it, I showed some of it last week. I don't plan to share all of it, so don't expect me to. It is my personal book. But I'm going to show you what I'm going to set up in my book today, and why, and how. And while I work on it, I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts on what you should put in a Book of Shadows. Disclaimer. Are you listening carefully? The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are entirely my own, and if you don't agree, that's perfectly okay. You don't need to argue with me about it, okay? Just do your thing. The entire message of this video is going to be, do your own thing. So, just do your own thing. I'll do my thing. They can do their thing. You can do your thing. And everybody's happy. Okay? Luna, why are you deathing me? Somebody did ask about my bookmarks. I have put extra bookmarks in this. It only came with 2 bookmarks. I've put extra ones in. They all have significance for different things. But the one that I am the one I am using right now is the red one. The red one is always on the page that I am currently using because it stands out more than anything else. The others are stuff that I refer to. And I've got all sorts of things. I got jingle bells. I've got a love heart thing that a friend sent to me that is meaningful to me. I've got a fox, which is one of my totems. He's a bit grubby. Fox needs a bit of a clean. He's been digging in the dirt, apparently. These bells are actually off the collars of my cats. I've got various different types of ribbon, and I've used different types because even when it's quite dark, I like to work by candlelight a lot, and even when it's quite dark... Oh! I said something... I wrote something down beginning with D, and as a Slytherin you went with death. Right, okay, of course you did. Of course, I forgot, it's you, Luna. All of these ribbons and things have different textures, so even when I can't really see what colours they are, I still know by, you know, what's hanging on it or the texture of the bookmark, which section I'm going to. It just makes life easier for me. But my red one is always the page I'm currently working on. I do recommend having multiple bookmarks because whatever you're putting in your Book of Shadows, you'll find that you're probably not working front to back chronologically. You will be working in sections, more likely, if you're organised. And organisation. Let's talk about organisation first and foremost. I think there's a lot of people have... Oh, let me... Actually, no. Let's belay that. Belay that. Let's go back one and talk about what I'm going to do on my page. Otherwise it won't make sense, will it? So I'm currently researching wands. I've had this bit of wood for a while. My students in my class know the history behind this particular piece of wood. I have been researching about wands. I now have an idea of what I want to put on a page about wands, and I thought I would prep a page with some artwork to give you ideas for what you could do with a page to get you started, just to make it... There's a lot of people are like, well, I'd like to make my book look good, but it's just all writing and scribbles. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but this is one way that you can get around that. Once you've done your research on something, make up a page where you can actually put the stuff that's important. And this is what will tie in with both the general thing, what do you put in a Book of Shadows, and how do you do it, and also the questions that I was asked about, you know, what do I leave out? What do you mean, what do I leave out? I'm new, and so on. This is going to be a chatty ramble while I work. So A, it's probably going to be 2 hours long, and B, it might not make sense until we're done. Because that's how I talk. I'm not here to lecture. I give you thoughts as they come to me, and ideas and things like that. I have a creative brain. It has squirrelitis. It jumps from one thing to the other, and hopefully at the end it gives you some kind of idea of what you could do to go and do your book, whatever that may be, whether it's a Book of Shadows or a Bible journal or just an ordinary journal or whatever. You know, you could use it for your science homework. I don't care. You know, it's all basically the same thing. It's all learning. And that is where I want to kick off with the learning. Because I think there's a tendency, as with a lot of things, to assume that your Book of Shadows has to be beautiful, Instagram worthy and lovely and all that. And you say that to people and they go, oh, no, I know it doesn't have to be like that. But they still want a book that is all big and grand and tome-like, and, you know, they have this idea in their head of what Book of Shadows should look like. And part of this myth, I believe, is perpetuated, not by Hollywood, surprisingly enough, although they do they do subscribe to that thing, but, you know, it's for visual effect. It's got to look good on TV, hasn't it? But I think generally... Sorry, I'm just going for the right size here. I think generally the idea behind a book of shadows is everybody has an idea in their head of what it ought to look like, and they try to emulate that in some way, and they're always kind of disappointed when it doesn't fit their expectations. And part of that, I think, may be to do with this idea that we've got to be perfect the first time. Even if you are very adept at your craft, you may not be adept at creating a book. Even if you are adept at creating a book, you might not be very adept at your craft. So either way, unless you're an expert in both, and I do both professionally all the time, most of the time, every day, and I don't consider myself an expert in both. So if you do, congratulations, what are you doing here? Go and teach something, or or paint something, or whatever. If you believe that everything should be perfect right out the gate, then you're not learning. And I think you need to, first off, remember that the craft is a learning experience, and you never, ever stop learning, okay? Just because somebody is on YouTube showing you how to do stuff doesn't mean that they are the be-all and end-all of absolutely everything and they know everything. And even if they do know everything, let's say, for instance, I am sat here and I actually do know everything that there is to know, I still don't know what is right for you. And that is the key. It's not about what's right or wrong, or having the perfect table of correspondences, or having all the perfect information so that you know exactly what to do, you know, and you can whip out your wand and cast the right spell at a moment's notice, all Harry Potter-like. That's not what it's about. It's about learning. I don't think any of you, regardless of age, and I'm talking, you know, from the teen witches who are just starting out on their journey, right the way through to some of you old crones, of which I am starting to become one of them. You don't just walk into English class and they say, right, today we're going to study The Tempest, and you go, oh great, I've read The Tempest, I know all there is to know about it. That's not how it works, is it? Even when you've read it and you know a lot about it, you can still learn more about it. If that wasn't the case, there wouldn't be professors and people still writing new theories and new ideas. It's all about perspective. And I think that gets lost in translation because with the... I'm not going to blame social media or the internet age, you know, like most old people do. That's not the case. It's simply a case of people wanting to know answers. And I think it's a part of modern life that you expect to be able to find answers. You know, you can go on Google in a matter of minutes and find out how to cook a chicken in a microwave. You know that you can do that with almost everything. So to suddenly not be able to do it with any certainty for something is quite difficult. And I think it's difficult to accept that, I'm sorry, you have to go and look things up and you have to go and try stuff and you have to work out what works for you. I've given this example many times and I'm going to give it again because it's the best example I have. Every correspondence you look up will say, oh, if you're having trouble sleeping, put some lavender under your pillow, or have some lavender tea, and that, or put lavender salts in your bath and that will help you nod off. Well, yes, that is true. It's also true that for me, and I know for at least 2 other people here, that lavender will give me a migraine. I can't, you know, it won't help me sleep. It will give me a migraine. So yes, the information on, you know, lavender is a relaxant, it stimulates this, that and the other, and it promotes this, and blah, blah, blah. That is correct information. But for me, it's wrong information, it does not work. I was talking about this on Twitch this morning. I think there's a fear of being wrong about what you put in your book. And the thing is, if it works for you, or you think it will work for you, or you have no idea if it will work for you, but you think, that sounds really interesting, I want to try that, then there is no reason why it can't go in your book of shadows. The things I would say not to bother putting in a book of shadows for anybody is stuff you already know. Because that's just a waste of paper. Unless you are in a coven that has rules, or a Wiccan who, you know, they have certain things that they write in their book of shadows before they do anything else. Remember, Wiccan is a religion, which is not something I have anything to do with. That's not saying that it's wrong in any way. If you are, that's fine. Each to their own. But it doesn't work for me. So I don't have anything to do with it. I don't put religious context. If you do, and you want to be a Wiccan, then you need to follow the Wiccan rules. You can't just pick and choose, oh, I don't fancy following that one. Well, guess what? If you want to say you're a Wiccan, then you do. If you don't want to follow rules, because you like to make up your own rules, or you don't believe in things like the rule of three, for logical reasons, then don't be a Wiccan. Just practice the craft. You don't have to do it, okay? Another thing that people forget is you don't have to have a book of shadows. Sacre bleu! She said it out loud! What are you talking about? That's right, I said it. You don't have to have a book of shadows. There is a myth, which I believe comes from the Wiccan thing, because people take 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, add it together and get 75. And that's not quite how it works. But I think because the Wiccans tend to have a specific way of doing things, people assume that's how everything is done. Which is, you know, that's human nature. We do that. I'm looking for some paper to put under my page. Obviously, I need some more. Oops. Let's not do that and just pretend we did. What was I saying? See, I distracted myself now because I had to do something. Yeah, you don't have to have a book. There's a myth that back in the old days, a witch did this and a witch did that. And she wrote down all her stuff in her book Shadows, and then she, you know, she drew all these plants. Guess what? Back in the old days, and we're talking pre-1970, you know, for those of you who think the old days was this century, or last century, we're talking, you know, the old days, ye olde days. Witches didn't keep books of shadows because witches didn't think of themselves as witches, and most of them couldn't read. It was all common knowledge that, you know, people who lived in rural areas used and learned to use different plants and things. Yeah, witches of yore didn't have books. And they certainly couldn't read, and most of them couldn't write, and if they could read and write, they wrote in Latin, because that's what the church dictated that you wrote in, you know. And most of them could only read and write bits from the Bible, because that's what the church dictated you learn. It's not like it is today, where everybody learns to read and write, and that's, you know, you learn to read and write or you're an idiot. That's not how it used to work. It was simply people, mostly women, but not always, who learned to live off the land and use what was around them as tools. And they found that if they distilled this particular plant in this particular way, then that helped people sleep, or if you chewed on this particular type of root while you were in childbirth, it eased the pain a bit, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they passed it down, and you learned it because, you know, little Maggie wandering around at 6, oh, guess what? Your mum's giving birth and you're the only one here to help. So here's what you're going to do, you know, and you learned that you go and find this, you know, you were basically on the receiving ends of get hot water and towels. That's how you learned. And you learned as you went along, and if mum had a complication, you learned from the woman who was tending her that, oh, actually, if you give her these flowers, that'll help. That's how it was then. You didn't have a book of shadows, and not surprisingly, that's why there are no books of shadows that have been handed down that aren't modern. You don't have books of shadows from witches from the 1600s. You have them from the 2016s. So a lot of what you put in a book of shadows is entirely up to you and depends on your learning. And one of the things that I advocate, and again, you can take it or leave it. I don't care if you follow my teachings or not. Well, teachings, views, let's put it that way. I'm not really teaching, I'm just giving you my views. I'm looking for clips. Whenever I'm sat here looking at my desk, I'm looking for something that I can't find. If you are really into herbs and you find something that you didn't know about a herb, then you write it in your book of shadows or your notebook or whatever. And I highly advocate having a notebook where you just chuck information. You could make it into a bullet journal if you really want to. It doesn't matter. I use composition books, and I literally have a composition book for each of the things that I am particularly interested in. So I have one for divination. I have one for specifically for astrology and tarot because that's the big bulk of what I do. And I have one for herb lore and other stuff. And if I come across something that I think, oh, I didn't know that, I'll scribble it in there. And when I get round to it, I will put it into my book of shadows if I think I still need it. I don't religiously copy out bits of correspondences from Pinterest into my book. For a start, quite often they're wrong. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's right. And just because it's on the internet, even if it is right, doesn't mean it's right for you. You have to experiment with this stuff. Red is supposed to give you energy and fire and passion and give you drive and ambition and make you feel up. And blue is supposed to calm you and make you feel relaxed and chilled. You know, for me, it's actually the opposite. Because I love blue. Blue gets me really energized. But I find red really cozy and warming, and you know, it's if my whole living room area has red bits. Some people find red aggressive. Yes, red means anger to some people. To others it means passion. Anger and passion are two sides of the same coin, but they are still different. And if it means passion to you and anger to somebody else, and for someone else it means, ooh, cozy, curl up by the fire, like me, then that's not the three same things. You can't just say, oh, red means this. What does it mean to you? So those are examples of things that I wouldn't bother putting in my book. Colours. I know colours. I know what colours mean to me. I look at a colour and I'm like, ooh, that makes me feel a bit and blah and bored and demotivated. Beige. Beige. I hate beige. I dislike beige intensely. I just don't find it interesting. It's not interesting. Any kind of blue I love. Green I go through phases with. Sometimes I love it. Sometimes I'm like, meh. I don't really feel like green right now. You know, what do you associate it with? What does it mean to you? Once you work out what it means to you, you can work out what it associates with otherwise. And an example of that would be, okay, so I'm very into blue. I love blue. I use blue in all my paintings. I'm about to use blue on this page. I use a lot of blue. I love blue. Yeah, Burgess. If you have a look at Burgess's room on her channel, everything around her is bright red. Everything. The more bright red she can get, the more bright red, the more she's happy. It's creative, it's motivating, and it's passionate. For me, I would just want to curl up in a ball and get warm. And bask in the warmth. I don't find red motivating. But when I look it up and I say, okay, well, why do I find blue motivating instead of red? Well, for me, first off, I'm an Aquarian. Aquarians' colours are blue and silver. So there's a good indicator, you know, of why I like cool colours. Aquarians tend to like cool colours and metallics and modern, clean looking colours. That's what we find energising. It's also the colour of water elements. Again, Aquarius, the water bearer. You seeing a connection here? So there's an association there, but also water element is feelings. It's all to do with Cancer and the moon and your feelings and your intuition, which again is also something that I work with all the time. I do divination, so everything I do is intuition. Am I sitting here thinking, oh, what should I do, this, that and the other as a creative artist? Am I thinking about proportion and perspective and everything else when I'm doing this page? No, I'm working intuitively. I'm being creative. I'm not really thinking about anything in particular because I'm talking to you guys and I can't think and do at the same time. That's a step too far. I've got about as far as I think I want to paste her down in the corner there, and then I'm going to paint around her in blue because I really like this colour. It looks really pretty with her hair. That's as far as I've got with planning my page. Oh, and I think I better draw the wand across here because I always like it if I've got pictures at the top and writing at the bottom. That gives me a nice space to write in, and you know, I can work from there basically. I took myself off track there. Where was I? Somebody reel me back. I get so off track with these things because I have too many ideas coming at me at once. This is why I can't think about what I'm painting at the same time. I just paint intuitively. Oh, intuition. There we go. That's where I was. Intuition, water. Also, in my chart, I happen to have the moon in Cancer. So, for me, blue is a very intuitive colour. It is calming. It's like, yeah, it's like looking at the sea. It's the ocean's energy. It's that rhythmic kind of up and down, pull of the tides, all that kind of stuff. And Aquarius, although we're not a water sign, we are the water bearer. So we have an affinity with water. Now, I do also have Mars in Aries, but I'm not a very get up and go type person. I have a lot of drive and ambition in terms of if I want to do something, I'll go and do it. I don't need permission. I have never been one of those people who needed somebody to tell me I have permission to be an artist. I'm like, if I want to draw, I'm going to draw. What's it got to do with you? So in that sense, I'm very red energy, but I don't find that motivate. That's not what motivates me. I don't draw just because people say I can't or whatever. I draw because I feel like it. And it's not really, it's neither here nor there whether you like what I draw or not. I don't care. I'm just drawing because I want to. I'm looking for a particular blue. I don't think that's quite the one I want. That's a bit too blue. I want a bit more, something a bit more tealy blue. That's more like it. And something I've got a darker one of those, I'm sure. Cyan. I wonder if that would work. No, that's a bit too red. Oh, that's close to that colour though. I wonder if I can make those two work together. That'd be a bit of a challenge. I've not done that before. Oh, I've also got the darker. There's the darker version of that as well. It's a bit too green though. But it might work to blend the two together. Yeah, let's try that. Let's try the light and the dark and see how we go. I'm trying to keep up with chat, but honestly, there's so many different chats and people chatting to each other, which is awesome. Do it. I love it. I can't read all the chats and keep up with talking and art and everything. I can do all the things, but I can't do them all at once, okay? Yellow. No, I don't like yellow either. Yellow makes me feel twitchy and anxious. Yes, absolutely. It does to me too. How funny. There are just some colours that I don't want around me. I just, like, no, sorry. Ooh, I like this pretty blue colour. This is lovely. This is lovely colour. I haven't gessoed this page or anything like that, and yes, I am absolutely chucking acrylic on this page. Don't worry about it. Just paint. You don't have to worry about doing it the right way. If you paint a page and it decides to bleed through to the next page, then you just stick the two pages together. Job done. Okay? And don't do it again. Or do it again and just stick the pages together again. Don't think of it as being wrong. Think of it as being not right for you. Don't think of it as being an error. Think of it as being a learning experience. And apply that to both types of craft, and you can't really go far wrong. So if you already know what you are or are not going to use in your Book of Shadows, then there's a good indication of what to put in your Book of Shadows. For instance, if you have absolutely no interest whatsoever in plants and herbs, you're probably never going to use plants and herbs unless you use somebody else's spell that says you need to use plants and herbs, right? So why not forego that bit and put your energy into something that you really do love? If you love crystals, write about crystals. Do your research on the crystals you've got. And then as you get more crystals, or you find crystals that are interesting or whatever, put your energy into researching those. Practice with those. Don't just spend all your time with your head in your book making pretty pages. That's not learning the craft. That's journaling. If that's what you want to do, by all means do it. There is absolutely nothing wrong in creating a beautiful looking Book of Shadows and not actually being anything to do with the craft. Yeah, if you want to, that's fine. Do it. Why not? If it's making you happy and it's a creative pastime, then go ahead and do it. But if you want to learn, learn. If you want to write about it, write about it. You're researching what plants and herbs to have around your house for the things you need, like keeping wasps away but keeping the bees in. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, see, that's a good way of researching herbs. That is not actually anything to do with researching herbs. It's more gardening. But it's still, you know, using herbs and plants and flowers to, in effect, or to affect your environment. I'm not going to say control your environment, because you can't control your environment. But at the end of the day, all magic is putting your own will onto your environment and surroundings. That's all it is, you know? that's a pretty colour too. I don't normally like paler teal kind of blues, but this is a pretty blue. This one I like. What pens work over acrylic? Well, a ballpoint pen will always work over everything because it's oil-based. So, there you go. If you can't get anything else to work, use a ballpoint pen. Not a gel pen. I know some people call gel pens ballpoint pens. They're not the same thing. A regular old school Bic biro or something like that. Parker Jotter. I love my Parker Jotter. Just a regular ballpoint pen will work just fine over pretty much anything. Oh, these colours are, oof. These colours, so pretty. I'm not a big fan of teal at all, but that colour is beautiful. It's called cobalt teal, but it doesn't look teal to me. It looks sky blue, but it's pretty, isn't it? It's really nice. I wouldn't call it teal. Teal to me is more green. Like those of you who watch Boho Berry, she's all about the teal. That colour teal, I can't stand it. I do not like it at all. No, it's just not. It's not a colour I can deal with at all. But this is much more bright blue. It's a very pretty colour. So yeah, if you've got no interest in something, you don't need to put that in your book of shadows, regardless of what anybody tells you. So if you're not Wiccan and you don't plan on particularly dealing with gods and goddesses for that reason, you don't need to research gods and goddesses. It's fun researching gods and goddesses, and it's highly entertaining, and you can learn a lot. Especially about how the old ones, or the old ancestors, thought about things. For instance, you know, learning the myths surrounding Brigid and Imolc, and how she's essentially the goddess bringing the light back to the world after the darkness of winter. That can be beneficial to learn about because it puts you in the place of, you know, ye olde ancestors sitting around the campfire, no central heating, middle of winter, going, oh my God, I wish it would stop snowing. You know, how would you have got through this winter that we've just had with the old polar vortex if all you had between you and freezing to death was a couple of wolf pelts and a fire? You probably wouldn't. You'd probably be dead by now. And if you weren't, you'd be very glad to see the sun coming back. So perhaps that's something you can look at and imagine what it would have been like back then, and why so many of these stories, you know, why so many stories bring the concept of everything dies in winter and everything revives in the spring, and, you know, all the gods and goddesses associated with spring are to do with rebirth and rejuvenation. And all the gods and goddesses to do with the beginning of summer are to do with fertility and giving birth and stuff like that, and bright colours, you know. Because that's, you know, what else are you going to do when you're sitting around your campfire in the middle of December? But say, sod it, let's get drunk, winter festival, and hope for the spring. And when the spring comes, that first ray of sunshine, and you start spotting rabbits on the hills, what are you going to do? You're going to go out and hunt a few and have a good old rabbit stew, because you're probably sick of the turnips that you've been hoarding since last August, and they're probably a bit mouldy by now anyway. You know, put yourself in the shoes of somebody from so long ago and the stories start to make sense. And then you understand why people felt it was important to worship the deities, the gods and goddesses, the personifications of things like light, heat, dawn, fertility, all that kind of thing. If your livelihood depends on all of your lambs being born healthy, of course you're going to pray to whatever goddess or god makes you think of fertility and health and looks after young animals. If you're a hunter, of course you're going to pray to whatever god or goddess looks after the wild animals in the forest and makes sure that there's plenty of food for everybody and helps you hunt and all that kind of thing and returns you safely home. Because at that point in time, your life is entirely based on superstition. We're not quite so much based on superstition these days, but it's still there. If superstition didn't exist, people wouldn't pray to God every Sunday. Is magic about intention? Well, what do you want to do with magic? What does magic do? It affects things. So either you affect things by accident, which is not magic, it's accident, or carelessness, or thoughtlessness, or you deliberately set out to affect things, in which case, if you're using magic to do that, then yes, magic is intention. So your intention is paramount, really, when you're doing magic. You know, you can't... Let's boil it down to some basics. If you're feeling like crap because you've just got over a really bad bout of the flu, running a marathon is not going to be on your list of things to do, is it? You have absolutely no intention of trying. If you're intending to cast a spell to help yourself feel calmer or something, you know, which could be as simple as meditation. When we talk about casting spells, we don't necessarily mean whipping up the old cauldron. There's a lot of different ways of performing magic and they're all spell work. If your intention is to create calm, you're going to be most able to create calm when you are calm, because you can create more of what you have more easily than you can conjure up something from nothing. So when you're really, 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 really angry is not the time to conjure up a nice calming spell, because what you're putting into it is angry energy. What you really want to do is go and vent that energy somewhere. You know, go for a run, make it constructive. Take the dog for a walk. Go to the gym. Expend that energy into the universe somewhere. There's nothing to say. There's no rule, as far as I know, that says going to the gym to expend out negative energy is not A, witchcraft, B, spell work, or C, not allowed. Once you feel calm, you can create more calmness. If your feelings are completely the opposite of what you intend, then you're probably not going to be able to do what you intend to do. Magic only really happens when you succeed at it, if that makes sense. I'm trying to find a better way of putting it, but yeah, do housework when you're angry. That's the time that I find doing housework is the most beneficial, because it's getting it out of my system. I take it out on the sink and have a clean sink. Yeah, housework when you're angry or when you have excess energy and you just need to get it out of your system. It's fantastic. Does that make sense, Chloe? Again, I'm only putting my thoughts out. What I suggest you do, no matter what I say or do or whatever, don't take it as, oh, well, that must be right. I'm not about being right. I'm about telling you what I think or what I would do in that situation or how I view that. And it's up to you to take that information and work through it and say, well, I kind of see how that would work, but for me, that doesn't. I don't agree with this bit. I would do this instead. Maybe for you, channeling that anger into creating a spell and then going and meditating would help. Maybe for you, channeling all that anger into a protection or defense spell is a better idea, and then go for a run and calm down, or meditate, or do a calming spell afterwards, or, you know, read your cards, or whatever it is you do that you find soothing. Me, I paint it out. Do you house work when you get anxiety because it helps you release it? Yeah. Come from a long line of kitchen witches. An awful lot of people come from a long line of kitchen witches. That's not to say discredit you in any way. I don't mean it like that. I'm just saying, you know, that's another misconception, is that you come from a line of witches. These days you can come from a line of witches because there's a chance that your grandmother and your mother and even your great-grandmother were Wiccans, or knew about witch kind of ways in the mid-1900s kind of times. But essentially, we all come from a long line of kitchen witches because, you know, that's where recipes come from. How do we know that when you want your home to feel welcoming, you put on a pot of coffee and cook bread or biscuits? How do we know that? From practice. That's kitchen witchery. There is very little in life that can't be looked at as there's a little witch in everything. There's a little witch in all of us, and there's a little magic in everything. If you believe in magic and you believe in witchcraft and you consider yourself of a witchy persuasion, then you see magic in everything, because magic is the thing that connects everything to everything else. It's the life force. That's why I personally don't believe in karma, because to me, magic is like chi or energy. It all is the same thing. It all is what connects us, what runs through eternity and the universe, and, you know, scientists call it molecules and atoms. Christians call it a soul. I think of it as energy and chi, or a life force that is in everything. Even an inanimate object has a life force because it has a vibrational energy. And if you don't believe me, go and ask a scientist. Unless you're a flat earther, in which case, what are you doing here? Sorry, I'm just trying to decide what to do with this bit down here, whether to just paint it out, or I think I might just paint it white and colour it in later. I see magic as energy in a similar way as scientists talk about the vibrational energy of atoms. And for everything to have a basic vibration or life force, there has to be a finite amount of energy. You can't create energy. You can only move it, speed it up, slow it down, manipulate it, but you can't create it. So when people talk about karma and the rule of three, I'm like, well, hang on a minute. How are you going to give out 1 and get 3 back when you can't create extra energy? Where's the other 2 coming from? Are you taking 2 off somebody else? In which case, where's the fairness in that? How does that work? You can't create energy. It's basic law of physics. And magic in its basic form is physics. It's the rules of nature. What goes up must come down because gravity. And yes, you can do the old ah, yes, but I'm a clever witch and I can do the old Wingardium Leviosa thing and make things levitate. Well, good for you. It's still going to have to come down eventually. So what goes up must come down. You can't negate nature's laws if you are a magic user, because magic is inherent in nature. That's the whole point of it. It's a natural thing. So if you're trying to circumnavigate nature's laws, you're kind of you're trying to speak French by speaking German, basically. You can't do it like that. It doesn't work. In my opinion. Again, some people believe in the rule of three. But have you ever looked at what people write about the rule of three and, you know, then heard somebody like me say, well, I don't believe in it and here's why? And have you then gone to your Book of Shadows and said, you know what? I don't know what I think about it. Up until about 10 minutes ago, I thought I was okay with the rule of three. And now I'm thinking, well, does it make sense? I don't know. Let's write about it and find out. Let's do some notes. Let's do some research. Let's read a few things and see what people say. And then you write it all out. And then you work out what you think about the rule of three. Now, for me, what I think about the rule of three as a beginner right now, if I have no idea about anything, but I've just thought, oh, that's an interesting question. What do I think about it? Then what I'm going to write in my Book of Shadows is what I think about it. That's what goes in my Book of Shadows. What I think about it. All the working out and the reading and the notes and everything else, that's reading and notes and research, and that goes somewhere else. So, when you have a baby, do you create energy? No. You take energy from the universe and form it into a life. My opinion, again. Because there's a finite amount of energy. You can't just make energy from nowhere. It's a physical impossibility. You cannot create or destroy energy. You can only change it. So you take energy in one form and you create it, you turn it into something else, which we call life, a baby. So you can think of it in terms of writing essays. We've all written essays for school, right? No matter how old we are, we've all had to write essays for school. If you think of it in terms of, that's not what the colour I want. If you think of it in terms of that's right, Cody. It depends on what you believe. And also, do you believe that energy and life is the same thing? Is creating a baby creating life, or is it creating energy? Or are they both the same? And if they are both the same, are they nature? Or are they a creation? Can you create nature, or is it already there? And for me, nature, energy is nature. It's the life force that is everything. So all you're doing is moulding through your will that bit of energy into what we call a life that will eventually turn into a baby and then a human being. And eventually die and return to the universe as energy. So you have workbooks with notes and research and your own thoughts you put into your Book of Shadows. Well, you make it sound very formal, but essentially, yes. What I actually have is a couple of composition books. Well, I say a couple of feet of composition books. I have several piles of composition books where I have written copious notes about stuff that I've researched. I've got PDFs printed out and shoved in ring binders where I've gone through them and read them through them and decided, you know, is that what I believe or do I agree? All that kind of thing. It's essentially like taking an English class. You don't just read the book and then go, right, I know how to answer the questions in the exam now. You have to look at it and consider different opinions and different forms and say what works here and what doesn't. You know what? What doesn't work for me is painting women with bits of clothes that you can hardly see. I'm going to paint all of her, and then I'm going to paint her with a dress, not because I'm a prude and I don't like women with no clothes on. I don't care. I just find it finicky. I'm not messing around with all that tiny clothing when I can just paint the whole thing and concentrate on her beautiful hair. Yeah, your answers are different to mine because you're a Christian. Exactly. But also, you're not the kind of Christian who's been told this is what it says in the Bible and therefore that's what you believe and you will follow it and you go, yes, mum. You are the kind of Christian who looks at the teachings in the Bible and questions them and looks at them and says, well, is this what I understand to be the truth? And all that. It's like we were talking about earlier about you having more of a personal relationship with God as opposed to I'm a Christian, go to church on Sunday. You don't just... If you research something in an English class, okay, you've got to research about Macbeth. So what do? Well, you probably get a special notebook or a special little divider in your little folder, because we tend to do that, don't we? And you probably, if you're one of those pen fanatics, you probably decide what colour coding you're going to use and all that kind of stuff. After that, you get to the point where you go, okay, I need to find some books to read, or I need to go over notes from class, or I need to watch this film or this video or this documentary, and off you go and you do that and you make notes as you do it. And then you review those notes and you think, well, I kind of agree with what he says here, but I don't see it as meaning this. For me, I think it actually means this. When Macbeth's missus is sitting there washing her hands, going, out damn spot, wash all this blood from off my hands, or whatever it is she says, what does that mean? Does it mean what your English teacher is telling you it means, or what the accepted GCSE syllabus says it means? Or are you looking at it and thinking, well, if I was her, it would mean this to me because my personal experience makes me think that she would feel like this. When she talks about unsex me here and all that, is she literally talking about not being a woman anymore? Or is she simply saying she wished she didn't have so many feelings? Is she wishing she didn't have to wear a tight bodice so she could go and chop this bloke's head off herself? What is she doing there? You put yourself in her shoes and you put it into your perspective. If I was in that situation, what would I think? So I think it's important, and for my students, I always say, have a workbook of shadows, if that's what you want to call it, or have a folder or something where you put research and other people's thoughts and what other people have said. And all those, those pretty things that you save off Pinterest, periodically download a few and print them out and put them in the bits where you think they're appropriate. But don't put them in your book of shadows until they mean something to you. If you've got 6 different colour lists and you say, actually, this one I agree with. I've got one. I've got a colour list that's about 40 different colours and it's the psychology of colour. Is that anything to do with witchcraft? To me, magic is just another science. So, for me, yes, psychology, headology. I'm a headology witch. I'm very into the teachings of Granny Weatherwax. Why do you need to cast a spell if you can just convince people you're a witch? Why cast a spell to cast bad luck on someone if you can just make them think you cast a spell on them and they'll just attribute all their bad luck to you in the future? Which is quite entertaining. But yeah, the psychology of colour. How colours should affect the human psyche. That I have in my book of shadows. The fact that some colours affect me differently doesn't matter, particularly because I know the differences. And I can say, okay, well, yeah, that's different for me. Blue doesn't work like that for me, although I do find it calming and relaxing and comforting. I also find it energising because calm and relaxed and comfortable is where I feel most creative. So you can have correspondences that are general, but they might be for other people. So if you're casting a spell, a defense spell, against somebody else, are you going to use a colour that means something to them? Probably not. Why? Because you're not going to know what colours mean something to them. You might, but it's highly unlikely. So you would use the default settings and hope that that works. You would use the common denominator and say, okay, well, black is generally a defensive colour, so I'm going to go with black. Now, if the person, it's highly unlikely, but if the person you're casting a spell against happens to love black, then black's probably not going to be the best defensive mechanism against them because they're just going to use that as energising or see that as energising. The ether will translate that for them as energy. So you have to think about what you're doing and why, and that's where your Book of Shadows comes in. That's where you figure out what works and what doesn't. Is it important that the other person finds black energising if you have an absolute firm, strong belief that black is a protective colour for you? I can't answer that question, only you can answer that question. Does the fact that they like black negate the fact that you find it defensive and protective and you have a firm belief that it will work? I can't answer that, only you can. And that's what your Book of Shadows is for. Or at least your workbook. You know, figure out what you think will work, what you think is the best. Is there another way of doing it that doesn't involve colour? That's what your workbook and your research is for. Once you know the answer, or you think you know the answer, according to you, that is when it goes in your Book of Shadows. Because you can sit with a lovely book all you want and copy out lovely correspondences from Pinterest until you're blue in the face. It doesn't make you a witch. It just means you've got a lovely book. If you're not practicing, you know, you can read a book on football. It's not going to make you a footballer. You can read a book on Formula 1. You can watch every Formula 1 race that's ever been raced. It's not going to make you a good driver. You've got to practice. You can buy every book on how to journal and watch every video on how to journal and how to make a Book of Shadows and how to do this, that and the other. It's not going to make you any better as a witch or a painter or an artist or a writer or whatever. What it's going to do is show you lots of ways that other people are doing it. And if you don't know what you want to do, all it's going to do is make you feel less and less comfortable about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And hence to the whole, ooh, Now I feel like I might be doing it wrong. What if I'm not doing it right? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm doing... What should it look like? If your spiritual practice involves the word should, you're doing it wrong. Yeah, it's just like writing. You write your first draft of your essay and it makes no sense to anybody. It's just chaos that's in your head that you have a vague idea of what you want to write. Eventually, you might get to the point where you go, "Ooh, actually, I think I know what I mean about this now." And then you'll rewrite it, and then you'll rewrite it. And maybe the fourth draft will get handed in. But you don't, well, most of us don't just whack something off and go, "There, that'll do." Because most of us don't have brains that work like that. I'm just putting a little bit of matte medium on this paper because I'm finding it difficult to blend the acrylic over the roughness of the paper. Doesn't make for very smooth blending, so I'm just putting a little thing of matte medium down just to make it blend a little easier. So, what have we covered? What to put in your book. Stuff that you want to remember. Stuff that you want to refer back to. Notes on things that you've decided currently, according to my current beliefs. Because remember, things change over time. You don't just wake up one morning and go, "Oh, I'm enlightened, I know everything." Well, some people do, but they usually start cults. Hey, Abby. Organisation. Right, organisation is one of those things that a lot of people get hung up on. A lot of people. And I have to admit that at one point I was one of those people. And here's what I do with organisation, okay? Everything I write down, every notebook I have that is not my book Shadows, every notebook I have, I give it a title of some sort. So usually something highly inventive like Herbs 1, Herbs 2, Herbs 3, and so on. So I know if I'm looking for a poisonous herb, it's going to be in my second book. But the way I keep tabs on everything, I've got something like 14 different composition books full of very tiny writing. I call them my serial killer books because, you know, when you're in Criminal Minds and they go, "Ooh, read, you're going to want to see this," you know, and there's like this big stack of composition books. It's filled with really, really tiny writing and strange hieroglyphs and things. Yeah, that's what my composition books tend to look like. When you've got that happening and you find it difficult to find stuff, get yourself an A to Z book, an address book, okay? Anything like that. Give all your books that you write in a number or a title or a name or, you know, something. Just Herbs, Volume 1. Put page numbers on everything. And then in your A to Z, when you make an entry in your second book of Herbs about Deadly Nightshade, 1, go to D in your record and then put in Deadly Nightshade, Herbs Book 2, page 94. And then go and put, oh, it's also known as Belladonna. So B, Belladonna, aka Deadly Nightshade, Herbs Book 2, page 94. So that when you come to it and you think, you know, somebody says, "Oh, you need Belladonna." You go, "Belladonna? The hell's that?" I don't remember about Belladonna. Well, because you don't call it Belladonna, you call it Deadly Nightshade. Well, that's fine. You call it Deadly Nightshade, but it's still called Belladonna. if you go on Google, you can find what Eye of Newt and Tongue of Frog and Will of Bat and Tongue of Dog, or whatever it is. They are all common names for flowers. Common hedgerow, common or garden flowers, as they say. It's not commoner garden or commoner garten, I saw somebody put. It's common or garden flowers. As in, you can walk out in your hedgerow and find them growing there. So there is a common flower called Eye of Newt. Go find it. There's your homework. I'll make it a PDF if you want, so you can go and do some fun stuff. I'll put it on Patreon for those of you who are interested in the bottom tier on Patreon. So if you want to get a PDF with some prompts, you can go and do that. I don't mind doing that for people if you want it. Let me know down below if you want it, and I will do a PDF for each session we do. And you can take your PDF and go and do a bit of research. Mother-in-law's tongue, yes. That's another common saying. But people don't realise that these days, because the handing down of knowledge has not disappeared. It's just that this concept of, oh, we all have a book of shadows and we keep it secret. Keep it secret, keep it safe. Write it all down. And, you know, the only place that stuff is allowed to be is on the internet as a list of correspondences on Pinterest. And it's like, what? I don't understand that. You can share it with other people, you know. You don't have to... I encourage my group, my members, to share. I try to remember to share my books as well, but I tend to forget. But they do remind me, which is good. It's the name of a cookie in Portugal. Oh, cool. Is it very sharp and bitter? Slightly acidic with a hint of lemon. And some chilli. So, this is where this page comes in. I have spent the last 3 or 4 months researching how to make a wand. How to turn this into a wand. Because, you know, when it comes to making a wand, I'm a beginner. And not surprisingly, it takes a lot of information, it takes a lot of digging around on Google to find out how to make a wand, because the first 50,000 results of how to make a wand involve Harry Potter. And I love Harry Potter as much as the next person, but that's not what I want from a wand. So I had to do some digging to find out the information. Then I had to look at all the information and go, okay, well, what's going to work for me? What do I want from mine? A lot of wand making things said, oh, you need very sharp. Yeah, I thought it would be. A lot of things said, oh, well, you should decorate your wand with feathers. Well, that's great. I'm allergic to feathers. Next, move along. So you've got to work out what's going to work for you and what is appropriate for you. You know, if you are, as a lot of people still are, what they call a closet witch, where you don't want to, you know, perhaps you still live at home with parents and you don't want something totally obvious, you know, that you use as a wand. Well, you could do what I did for years. You could have a black and a white pen. I used a paintbrush as a wand for years, still do. Because for me, painting is creative energy. Where else do I get creative energy or focus energy from better than the tool of my trade? And let's face it, it looks like a wand, right? It works magic. It looks like a wand. Boom. See how that's blended a bit better now that I put matte medium on. It's still not great, but I'm not going for a perfectly rendered painting. I'm just doing a journal page to write on. Because some of this has matte medium and some of it doesn't, I'm just going to finish off the rest of this with some matte medium. That way I know, it's just a preference of mine really, that way I know that I've got, oh, there's my brush, I've just put it down. I've got matte medium all over it, therefore I know what pens I can use. I don't want to start using a pen on this side of the paper and then find I can't use it over here. You have a paintbrush wand? Yeah. Yours looks like a Bellatrix wand. Awesome. Nothing wrong with that. I like Luna's wand, actually. I love that little tulip thing on the end. I think it's really pretty. Nothing wrong with having a Harry Potter wand, if that's what works for you. You know, back in the day, everybody's Book of Shadows had a tendency to have a big eyeball on it. Because everybody wanted Winifred Sanders' Book of Shadows. Because who doesn't, right? Or it was a big green tome with like coloured ribbons and a triquetra on the front because everybody loved Charmed. And it was a really nice book, let's face it. But it doesn't have to be like that. It could be an A4 binder if that's what works for you. It can be a stack of composition books with things written on in Sharpie with different coloured paints on the back so you know which book you're picking up. That's what I do. It's really hard to get composition books over here though. I'm almost out of the 21 that Carrie Harling sent me about 4 years ago. I've nearly used them all. But there is a very nice, actually, Luna, you'll like this. You're UK, aren't you? If you're in the UK, go to Asda. They have, it's listed as a leather journal, but it's not a leather journal. It's leatherette, it's vinyl, trust me. Some of the newer ones are actually listed as leatherette, so they obviously got told off for having leather written on it when it's not leather. But it is definitely leatherette. Vinyl. It's canvas on the back, so I can promise you it's not leather. But it's about the size of a composition book, and it's about the thickness of 5 or 6 composition books put together, and it's basically the same paper. I don't know if I've shown it on this channel before. I think it's in the cupboard behind me and I might not be able to get to it, but if I can reach it, I will show it to you. But I think it's behind my table where I've put my sewing thing, because I didn't think to get it out before I put my table there. And if I move my table, there could be things all come crashing down. But look, give me 2 seconds and I'll see if I can reach it for you. It might come open. Oh, it's here, look. Ta-da! See? Can you see in there? There's all my stack of composition books in the bottom there. There's 9 in there at the moment. They're all full. Composition books are impossible to find. But if you have a nice friend in America, like I have, Carrie does me a swap every year and she sends me stuff and I send her chocolate. This is something I did. I embossed the cover. But this is not leather. This is like, it feels like that silicone type stuff. And I pulled it apart at the back and it's actually vinyl. But this, I've got 4 or 5 of these. These are £4 in Asda. Look at this. It's beautiful. It's got a boned spine. Only 1 bookmark. It's 8 by 10, I believe, or thereabouts. Let me just check. I think it's B4. It's 7 1/4 inches by 9 1/2. So yeah, it's composition book size. And inside it's lovely paper. It's ordinary composition book paper with a margin and wide lines. I can fit 2 lines of writing to that. I've done pen tests in the back. Hardly any pens bleed through the paper. I've got 1 there and a couple of spots there. That's out of all of those pens. And that one where it says pressing down, that was my Lamy extra fine, and I pressed down with my fountain pen. And I've tested a Bic, a Unipin, Uniball Eye, a Lamy, the Lamy pressed down, which bled. The Uniball Eye Micro bled, and feathered, but it does on everything. I don't know why everybody loves that pen so much. Pilot G-Tech, Uniball Signo, Statler Tri Plus. That bled through if you coloured with it, but for writing it's perfectly fine. It's got like 200 pages, 192 pages, something like that. It's massive, look. It's an inch thick at least. It's huge. It's an inch thick. It's 3 composition books. It's fabulous. Fabulous book. Couple of these for your note taking. These are great. £4 in Asda. Go get you some. In fact, if you're starting out, you know, if you're sitting watching this and going, oh, well, I want a nice book of shadows and I want to be able to paste things in and collect stuff and, you know, cut things out of magazines and stick it in here because it says Sages for protection. And then I want to be able to mark that off and do my own thing. Well, go and get one of these. It's £4. What a nice looking book. You can decorate the cover if you wanted to. I just put a Saturn on here because I'm going to use this one for astrology notes, for predictive astrology. I've got another one that I'm going to use for my new herb book. Yeah, you could fill it with copy and paste. It's got a really good sturdy binding. Look at the binding. It's stitched and it lies flat. Can you see how it's... Here's how you test if a book's going to lie flat. If you open a book and the back of it has got this band of fabric and you can do that with it, between the cover and that bit of fabric, that book's going to lie flat no matter how thick it is or how wide where you open it. Look, completely flat. Stays flat. Stays open, stays flat. Because the binding is not attached to the spine. No, it's stitched like a composition book. It's stitched. All the signatures are stitched all the way down. And then it's like somebody put several composition books together and turned them into a nice thick binding. In fact, if you could get several composition books and just take the cover off, you could actually put your own spine on and make your own book like this. It's not that hard to do. Plenty of bookbinding tutorials. This one I bought on eBay. This is the famous Believe book with the badly spelled quote. It's actually a Bible journal. 600 pages in this one. B5 size, so it's the size of a Moleskine large. Gilded edges, 2 bookmarks I've added extra. Lovely paper. Not great for fountain pens because it's a bit bubbly, but it's really nice for artwork, as you can see. Look, I've used acrylic on that and you can't even tell I've painted on the back of it, except for the fact that I'm messy and I got it everywhere. Again, lays flat, glued. Not glued, sewn. I'm just going to hit this with a heat gun just for 2 seconds because this acrylic needs to dry a little bit more. There we go. Oh, yeah, get one, Luna. You'll love it, especially for you because you're a writer. You'll fill one up. Get 2 because you'll fill them up in no time. Tracy had me buy like 3 or 4 for her. And I bet if she finds out they're in Asda again, she'll say, well, pick me one up. Because they don't have them in her Asda. This page is just wanting to curl. So I'm just going to put a paper clip on it. What I find with these pages is once you have finished, you close your book, the book's so heavy it flattens the pages out again, but just the corners tend to curl when you've freshly painted them. But yeah, something like that, or even something not that expensive. You know, grab an extra pack of A4 paper and stick it in your college binder. grab a pack of A5 paper and stick it in your, or even grab an old notebook and cut the pages out, hole punch them and stick them in an A5 Filofax that's been sitting in the kitchen unused for the last 18 months because nobody's using A5 Filofaxes at the moment. Start writing down your recipes. Pen & Gear is the Walmart brand like that. Yes, well, Asda is part of Walmart, and I think Pen & Gear is what... That sounds familiar, Pen & Gear. I think it was the same brand. So, yeah, you can get them in Walmart. It's a slippery slope once you start owning Filofaxes. Don't go there. I want to like Filofaxes. I own quite a few. But sadly, I just can't get on with them. Right, what am I going to do with this stick? I kind of want to do the stick in pencil, because pencil is my home thing. Pencil is where I like it to be at. So I think that will make a nice contrast to... Where's my pencil gone? There it is. To do this in pencil, maybe with a little bit of coloured shading. I don't know, I just feel like that would be a nice contrast to make it stand out. I really, really need to find another paperclip. Ah, here we go. Whole box of them here. Cody, you can do links in here, by the way. That's what the little spanner is for. So if you've got a link for that book, by all means, put it in. You can find them in Asda online, but it says they're out of stock. You have to check your own local stock. So, I'm just going to go back around this a bit. Let's put my shtick there so I can see what I'm doing. Have I covered everything that people wanted me to address about what to put in a book of shadows? I mean, the basic answer is whatever the hell you like. It's your book of shadows. It's right up there with what do I write in my journal. But I also... something that I've learned over the years, I never used to fully appreciate it, but some people, it's not that they don't know what to put in a journal, it's actually that they feel like... You can get 48 composition books at Walmart for $48, crikey. Yeah, Carrie buys them when they're on sale in September for like 50 cents each and sends them to me. She said it costs her more in postage than it does to actually buy them. But it's still cheaper than the 40 quid it costs me to buy one on Amazon. So, Stacey, I hope I've covered what you think. By all means, ask more questions. If I didn't address exactly what you meant, leave me a comment and let me know, and I will see what else I need to look at for you, or, you know, if you want other ideas. But, hi baby, Mama's working. Can you go and have a nap, please, while Mommy finishes working? Mommy won't be long, I promise. And then we'll go to the park. Play in park and do stuff, have fun, and snuggle. Can we do that in a minute? Yes, but only if you get a belly rub. Goodness me. I like the Staples books, but again, they're expensive here. They're like $4.99 for one book. I'm not paying $4.99 for one book when I can get that for £4. I go in and stock up. Every time I've got a spare £4 when I'm shopping, I'm like, do I really need to buy that pot of ice cream, or shall I get another composition book? I'm like, oh, I'll get another book. It's a good way to lose weight. Hi, Boo Boo. I see you too. Hi. Hi. Hello, attitude. Oh, he's got attitude today. You got attitude today. Grr. There you go. Okay. So this is bark here. I'm just wondering if I should maybe put some colour pencil in. Oh, baby girl. I might put some colour pencil in. I like colour pencil. Maddie, can you go sit down for a minute while Mummy finishes? Mummy's working. I won't be long. Maybe a little bit longer. So, crux of the thing is, if you think it should go in your book of shadows, put it in your book of shadows. No matter what anybody else says. Even if I've said, oh, I don't know, I wouldn't put that in my book of shadows. If you want to say, well, you know what, I'm going to put it in my book of shadows because I want to, well, good for you, do it. Don't let anybody tell you that you're doing it wrong. Because there is no prescribed way. Like I say, unless you are in a coven, in which case that's a whole different set of rules. When you join a coven, you agree to go by their rules. When you become a Wiccan, you learn a specific way of doing things. That's completely different. But if you are just practicing and learning on your own and doing things and you know, finding your own way, find your own Book of Shadows way as well. You know, don't let somebody tell you that you can't cut this picture out of a magazine and stick it in your book just because you like the look of her and you think she looks pretty. Why shouldn't you be allowed to cut it out of a magazine and stick it in your book? It's not a fine piece of art that you're going to stick on a wall and sell. It's a piece of art that you're making for you. And if you think she looks pretty but you can't draw her yourself, or you, like me, you're too lazy to draw her yourself, or you might want to put her there as a reference to draw her later, then do it. There is nothing to stop you putting anything you want in your Book of Shadows. You have a Leuchtturm with white paper instead of cream, and the paper's good for fountain pens. Yeah, Leuchtturms are quite common. And moleskins, of course, the new thick moleskins. If you're a moleskin lover, go check out Seaweed Kisses. It's just done a thing on the new 400-page moleskin. I'd like one, but I'm not paying 26 quid for a moleskin. 26 quid for a moleskin, £4 in Asda. You know. I'd like to be in the position where I could afford to spend 26 quid on getting the new extra thick moleskin, because I do love my moleskins. But I can't afford 26 quid for a moleskin when I can get that in Asda for 4 quid, and I love that book just as much. So, can't really justify it. Well, it's not even can't really justify it. Can't justify it at all. Yeah. The thing is, we all want to try the thick moleskin. We don't all want to try the thick moleskin. We want to feel what it feels like in our hands when we hold it. That's what we want to know about it. We don't actually want to try it, because if we try it, we'll just go, well, this is moleskin paper and it sucks. I actually like moleskin paper, but I mostly write in ballpoint pen, so... Cream helps you over the white page syndrome. Yeah, that's quite a common thing. Okay, let's give her a dress, shall we? What dress should we give her? I think she needs a white dress, actually. I think she looks like she should have a white dress that's kind of just a basic kind of summery sort of, here's a bit of a sleeve kind of thing, and her arm will be there, and, you know, maybe we can turn a bit of this into hair, but her dress is basically going to be there, like that. Just a nice kind of white hippie dress. That's easier than dealing with a whole heap of... What colour's that? Is that French grey? Yes. It's easier than dealing with a whole heap of flesh and straps and goodness knows what else she was wearing. I think she was wearing like a spaghetti strap top with lace on it, but it was really weird and I couldn't see enough of it to draw it. So, because she was originally much bigger, she was on the front cover, but I cut off all the bits that had words on. Oh, that was clever. I've over sharpened that one now. I've got all kinds of notebooks. My name's Burgess and I'm addicted to buying papers. Yeah, but the thing is, you have huge writing and you actually do use your notebooks because you go through them so fast because you've got massive writing. I'm addicted to notebooks and I have the tiniest writing in the world. How many years have I had this book now? And look at the tiny writing. I even tried to have big margins and it doesn't make any difference. Actually, a nice spring green there. That would do quite nicely for the... Let's give a little bit of that in the colour. Get kind of a nice spring green sort of colour in the creases. It'll go nicely with her hair and the blue. And it's spring-like. And white cotton quite often does take on a kind of greenish or bluish tinge, doesn't it? So let's have it there. Let's do a bit of... I think I want to extend her hair a bit because it cuts off in a funny place. So let's... Because you can never have too much red hair, right? Just make it come down a bit more like that. She's got some bits hanging over her shoulder. Let's put those back in. That was originally white and showing sunlight through her hair, but I kind of got rid of that. So let's just use... I'm going to use that orange, I think, and then tone it. Oh no, I've got that orange. That would be better. I've got this lovely orange here. No, that's too red. This orange here, which is a nice matte orange, and then I can use pencil over the top. To get the colours. I might have zoned out there a little bit. You've tried to have tiny writing. Yeah, you're not a tiny writing kind of girl. You could no more have tiny writing, Burgess, than you could have tiny hair. It's just not, it's not you. Yeah, that's better. I have one fancy fountain pen that I bought that I was given for my graduation. And I have loads of these kind of ones, which cost me about £1 on eBay. This is a TWSBI dupe of some kind. I don't think it's the TWSBI Echo. I think it's the next one up. But yeah, it's basically the same thing. Works the same way. And I don't mind if I drop it or lose it, because it only cost me £1. Appreciate your auburn hair after all these years. Yeah, I'm starting to miss mine again now. I'm liking this. It's a bit brighter than I'm used to. I'm more this colour, but yeah, I'm back in red for a while. I think probably a black next week, but at the moment I'm back in red for a while. Okay, so I think I'm happy with this. So I'm gonna just add some shading. You might not see this too well on camera because obviously it's a very light colour, but I'm just adding some shading where I think there should be a bit of shading. Because I'm doing it in pale green, it won't detract from the white dress. I'll maybe do a little bit under here. And we want some flesh tone, because this is her arm. That'll do. Don't want to draw too much attention to it. I just want it to be there. I've got a nice henna colour. Henna brown. I think this will be about the right colour for her hair. Perfect. So I'll use that. And I'll bring it up into this as well, just so that it blends nicely. A bit of a yellowy colour. Yep, that'll work. And a bit of a brown. That's not dark enough brown. Dark brown. Here we go. That's better. Paint's not quite dry. Make sure your paint's wet before you do this, guys. Or make sure your paint's dry before you do this, rather. And see, I know there's a lot of you out there who would be, ooh, but it's not, it's going wrong. It's going wrong. It's not right. I've done it wrong. My brain is going, oh well, it's only my book of shadows. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's meant that I've never been worried about working in my book. You know, I'm not worried about messing up. What's the worst that can happen? It looks a bit bad and I glue 2 pages together. It's the worst that can happen. So, is it the end of the world? No. There you go. I think she looks really pretty. Your dad was a Scotsman, so you were destined to have auburn hair, not ginger. Yeah. You either start light and get darker, or you start dark and get lighter. I started dark and got lighter. Like my mum. My mum is this kind of colour now. She's in her 70s and she's this kind of colour. But she used to be auburn, like chestnut mare kind of red when she was a kid. So I think what I'll do is use the same brown that I just used on her in my stick so that it kind of works together. And I want that kind of rough look that I'll get from the paper. So I want that bit dark and this bit dark. Not going too detailed on the shading. I'm basically just going with the fact that it's round and therefore it's going to have shading on the top and the bottom. Okay, let's use a slightly gingery brown so that it tones in with her, but we can get some nice contrast going here. Now, as far as what I'm going to write on here, there's lots of things you could write about. If you're new and you have no idea what wands are or how they're significant and etc, 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 then using a wand, what it's for, what it symbolises, what it signifies, and so on, would be a beneficial exercise. If you already have one and you use it and you know how to use it, maybe you could look up cleansing them or something like that. How to cleanse it, how to make your own. That's what I'm going to do. That's what my page is going to be about. What am I, you know, how to make your own. How to work out what you want to put on it. Because I think it's fairly obvious for us all to go, well, you could decorate it with bits of leather or bits of tape or ribbon, or, you know, you could carve on it, or you could write on it, or you could paint on it, or you could add beads and crystals and this and that. Well, we all know that. But what do you want to do with yours, you know? If having a whopping great crystal on the end of this is not going to be practical for you, because you're going to smack it into things, which is what I tend to do, then maybe don't put your crystal on the end. If you've got cats, having dangly things might not be a good idea. You know, a couple of ribbons with a feather on, you've got a cat toy, not a wand. So you might have to think about it. Oh, Felicia Day's gorgeous, isn't she? Reds, yay. This is not my natural colour. This is orange. But I am a natural red. Just not this vibrant. I wish I was. My friend has the most beautiful red hair. I'm very jealous. Mind you, it's the same colour as my hair used to be. Felicia Day, she's a comedian. She used to do the Guild, the gaming video thing. Red hair. Very well known. You'd probably recognise her if you saw her, Luna. Yeah, she's an actress too. She's been in quite a few things, but she's primarily a comedian. She's very funny. She started doing the YouTube series, The Guild, about the gaming guild. And I think she's been in Doctor Who, hasn't she? If I remember correctly. She's done quite a lot of stuff. She's done quite a lot of serious actress stuff as well recently. Buffy. She was on Buffy, yes, and Supernatural. She's done quite a few guest appearances. Wasn't she on... I don't think she was on Criminal Minds, but she was on something similar to that. See you, Burgess. Charlie. You know who she is now, yeah. Very popular in the gaming community is Felicia. Might need a new white pencil soon. There we go. That'll do nicely. Now I have a thing on my book where I actually always put on the side here, because when I flick through I can see the titles, and I like it like that. So I will now do my standard title. It's nothing fancy. And I will call this Making a Wand. I don't use any fancy lettering particularly, I just use my own handwriting, and then I go across and I just add thickness to whatever bits of letters I think need a bit of thickening up, and then I colour it in. And I do it all the same all the way through, and that way it seems to work. I'm not even particularly careful about colouring it in. This is my huge leather book shadows. Is this not huge enough? I have another one I was sent. I don't like the paper. But it's not much bigger than this one. What I was thinking of doing was using the cover on one of these, but I actually like the cover on these, so I don't really need to. I might turn it into a junk journal or something. Because it's a nice cover, but I don't like the paper. Paper's hideous. So, what kind of things am I going to put on this page? Yeah, but what do you put on a page about making a wand? Well, let me refer... Oh, I've smudged that. That was clever. Let me refer to you to the answer I made earlier. Do your research. Go and look up how to make wands. How to do, you know, how do you make a wand? What do you put on a wand? Do you put crystals on a wand? If so, are they purely decorative or do they serve a purpose? If they're purely decorative, you can just make it look pretty. If they serve a purpose, maybe you want to think about what crystal you want to put on there. Ask questions. Do you need to represent the elements on your wand? What element does your wand represent in and of itself? What is it for? What do you want to include or not include on it that may help or hinder its purpose? I refer you back to don't put danglies on if you've got cats. Ask me how I know. So there you go, there's my page. And yes, I'm an artist, and yes, I can draw a bit better than most people, but Honestly, it doesn't take that much. You've watched me do it. I just outlined the wand and then I went in with a bit of colour pencil, coloured it in. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. And if you don't think you can draw it, get a picture of a twig. Just paste a picture of a twig in that you like from a magazine. I pasted her in because I like the look of her. And there you go. I hope that's been useful. I'm happy with that. I will go off and write up some of the notes. I've smudged that again. I will go off and find some notes. I've actually already gone through my notes and highlighted. Once I've gone through notes and researched stuff, I go back in and make notes on the notes, and then I highlight stuff so that I know what I want to put in here. So it's kind of like, if you think about your research notes as your notes that you do during the year of school, and then this is basically, apart from the pretty bits, the condensed version of the stuff that you need to remember or the stuff you need to know for your revision. If you think of your book of shadows as the stuff you need to know or remember, then that should help you distinguish between what's rough notes and what should go in your book of shadows. But bottom line, what do you put in your book of shadows? Whatever the hell you want to. Shh. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. If you don't want to be arty in your book of shadows and you just want to do lovely lettering, just do lovely lettering. If you don't want a fancy book of shadows and you just want to keep all your work in a good old-fashioned field notes book, do that too. Do what you want. I told you that the whole thing would come down to do whatever the hell you want. I'm only here to guide and give you ideas. I'm not here to preach or tell you what to do. I just tell you what I do, what I think makes sense, and if you disagree with that, that's fine. As long as you can take what somebody else has said and say, I agree with that because, or I don't agree with that because, fill in the blanks, then you have thought about it, processed it, and therefore you've learned something. If you haven't learned something and you're just going, oh, I'll do that because that's what I was told to do by a page on the internet, then you're kind of missing the point. Sorry, but yeah. And there's nothing I can do to help you until you realise that you're kind of missing the point. Oh, I can smell something nice like cinnamon. Oh, it's on this towel. Oh, my towel smells of cinnamon. Oh, yummy. Cinnamon and cloves. Oh, I bet that's from when I was making my air freshener the other day. I probably wiped up the excess with that. It smells really nice. Anyway, I'll show you another time when I've written stuff on here. In the meantime, let me know in the comments if you want a PDF to go with these sessions for your own thoughts and ideas to kind of bring together what we've discussed, or, you know, maybe about the page like I've done, making a wand. Where do you start? Most people start with Google and then they get lost and they have too much information and they get overwhelmed. So if you want some study guides or something, I do those for my class anyway. So I'm quite happy to do a little bit of a study guide for you over on Patreon. I don't know. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want from me? And I shall see you Friday. I'll be back Friday. Friday at 12 over on Twitch. I'll be doing some more painting. Friday at 4 here, we'll be doing a Friday Crafternoon. A how to study guide. I've probably got one of those actually. I've probably got a how to study guide. Like a kind of what we've talked about in this session, but, you know, where do you start? Would that be useful? I know some people have not got to the point of college yet where they have to really study. They're just hand-fed information, and others just don't know how to do it because you've passed that point of life and you're no longer doing it, or you've forgotten how to do it. Okay, I can put together a study guide of how I would approach it. So, like, if I walk you through how I researched making a wand, would that help? If I walk you through what I did? I mean, it's not going to work for everything, but it's a place to start. You know, I want to know how to make a wand. Where do I start? Google, 400,000 results, and they all refer to Harry Potter. Now what do I do? Which was where I started. It would. Okay, I'll do that then. I'll put that in class, and for those of you on YouTube or whatever who want to get those as well, if you pop over to Patreon, I will put them in the $1 section over on Patreon. How's that? I'm trying to do something for those of you who, you know, I don't want to cut people spending a lot of money on stuff, but if a how-to-study guide of a couple of pages would be useful for $1, I'm willing to put a couple of hours into putting it together. If you guys are willing to put $1 towards getting it, why not? I'm happy to help you out. Because if you already know how to study, it's easy. If you don't know how to study, it's daunting. I can't promise it will help all of you, especially you, Cody. In fact, you might have to take the information that I give you and rewrite it, a how to study guide based on a study guide for how to study if you've got ADHD. That can be your title. So you can write it for people who don't know how to sit down for more than 5 minutes at a time. Whereas I can sit in the library for 3 days and forget to get up unless I need a coffee. Go away. See you next week. No, Friday. It's not next week yet. See you Friday. Bye, guys.